Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week I talked to Rabbi Samantha Thal, the new associate rabbi at Bet Shalom Congregation. We talk about what was appealing about coming to Bet Shalom, the roots of her Jewish community leadership, and what she's looking forward to as she starts her first post-ordination pulpit on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Rabbi Samantha Thal, welcome to the Who the Folk podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Welcome to the Twin Cities Jewish community. You are the new assistant rabbi here at Bet Shalom Congregation. And to let people in behind the curtain, this is your third day on the job,
yes,
as we are recording it officially. So mazel tov and welcome to town. How does it feel to be here?
Thank you. It feels great. I feel it's great to come back to the Midwest. It feels like coming home.
That's awesome. So I also am a lifelong Midwesterner, so I really do appreciate sort of this is going to sound very hokey, but like some Midwestern sensibilities. It's a different kind of community, different kind of place than when you get out on the coasts.
Yeah, definitely.
So where are you from originally?
I'm from St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you just graduated from Hebrew Union College in Los Angeles.
Yes.
What was it about coming back to the Midwest that was appealing to you?
Well, it's close to my family. I'm excited for the seasons. It's I loved LA. The weather is amazing, but it's like nice every day.
Right.
And it's good to have some interesting interesting weather.
It can get a little boring.
Yeah. But also just like I love the culture. I love the people. It's good and warm. Not to say that the people in LA, totally love the people in LA too. I had a really great community there, but
it's just a different type of experience and different type of Judaism on the coasts than you're going to find maybe in the middle of the country.
And I really enjoyed my time and I learned a lot. And I was very happy there too. So
when it comes, I've always found the search process for rabbis leaving school, really no matter the denomination, is a fascinating and like slightly bizarre in a lot of ways process. And I know it's evolved a little bit because of COVID. Things have changed some, but it's still kind of sort of surreal. What was that like for you in terms of like looking at congregations and finding what you thought was going to be the right fit for you?
Yeah, I guess my thought process, I was looking for a warm, welcoming community where I could really learn and grow as a new rabbi, because we learn a lot in school and we really learn how to be rabbis on the job.
Right.
So I was looking for a community that I wanted to learn from and grow in, and a clergy team that I could really learn a lot from. And so those were my main thoughts, and there were a lot of options this year, a lot of good places, and I interviewed with different congregations, but something that really struck me about interviewing with Bet Shalom, I felt like I was at home from the very first Zoom interview. Just like the people sitting around the table, it just felt there. I felt something. I felt a connection, and when I came here, I felt like I was coming home.
Is there similarities to not just the St. Louis Jewish community, because I know the sizes are a little bit different, but in terms of the feel of the synagogue and sort of that type of community that really resonated with you?
To be honest, I've only been here for 3 days, but
okay, that's totally fair. In terms of the interview process,
but the interview process, I think there are definitely similarities between the Twin Cities and St. Louis in some ways. So it felt familiar coming back to this kind of Midwest community, because the LA Jewish community is very different from the community I grew up in. There's so many people and so many different things. So people kind of are able to have their own bubbles where they're kind of sufficient within their bubbles. But a community like this, where we're smaller, everyone has to come together in a different way. And I think it's strong. And we can be connected in a different kind of way. So I was excited to come back into that kind of community.
What was it about being a rabbi that, at what point did you know that was what you wanted to do?
I officially decided, about halfway through college. So
Okay.
a little later than some people sometimes,
Sure.
but, other people decide way later, so
Yeah.
it depends. But I went into college thinking I would be a high school math teacher. And
This is very different from that.
so a bit of a turn, yeah.
little bit.
Right. I love math. I love the logic of it. I love that there's an answer, which is very different from Judaism.
There are several answers
Oh yeah,
all the time.
Yeah. And then, so I took a few semesters of calculus and still didn't quite know what calculus was, and was thinking maybe this isn't where I'm gonna go. So I really thought about it. I reflected on what I enjoyed doing, what I've done in life, and most of what I did, especially then and still do now, is involved in the Jewish community. So I grew up really involved in my home congregation, and I taught religious school as early as I could start teaching, and I went to camp every summer, and I became a song leader, and I loved the leadership work I was doing. And when I stopped to think about it, it really made so much sense that I wanted to keep doing that Jewish work. And in my little math existential crisis, I was like, maybe this is really a good thing. Maybe this is where I want to be, because I can incorporate the teaching and the passion for serving the Jewish community.
Right.
And so then I had to decide what I wanted to do in the Jewish community, and I thought about all the different things that I enjoyed, and kind of had some good mentors and had some great conversations and thought about it. And I wanted to teach, but from an informed place and from a place of deeper study and deeper learning. And I decided that rabbinical school is the way to get there. It took me a while. I was actually at a song leading conference, song leader boot camp in St. Louis, SLBC. Yeah, with Rick Recht. And that conference has become so much more than song leading.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah,
it's become
it's incredible.
massive. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really about Jewish leadership in the future. And so I was sitting in a session with a rabbi, a really prominent rabbi, who is kind of a big deal, and you wouldn't think that she's ever questioned herself. And she was talking about when she was first starting out, and I was really in the deep questioning process of do I want to do this? Is this what I want to do? Yeah. And she was talking about how when she first started, bunch of big names were coming to her congregation, and a bunch of big teachers, and she was thinking to herself, who am I to speak in front of these people? Who am I to teach these people? And someone eventually came up to her and said, your smallness is taking up too much space. We want to hear your voice. And so that helped her to flip how she was thinking about it. And so she kind of flipped from who am I to speak to these people, is who am I not to? Who am I not to share what I have to share? And that moment was when I decided that I could do it, that I had a voice and I had something to say, and I wanted to pursue that.
That's so cool. I mean, that's such a, the phrasing of that and the way that it to have somebody call you out that way, not for being too much, but for not being your full self. What a turn that is to make you, flip a switch.
Yeah. Especially in song leading circles and leadership circles, we talk a lot about ego. And when we talk about ego, we think of big ego. Yeah. We think of too much, someone who's overconfident. But there's also a flip side of that. There's a smallness that some people feel like who am I to step into that space? Who am I to take up that space? And I think that's just as much of a thing to consider as the big ego question in leadership, and helping people to find their voice and step into that space and take up the space.
I would think that as you're sort of going through this sort of existential crisis of wait, what I thought I was going to do, I'm not sure I really want to do anymore. I can see why somebody saying something like that would have such a profound impact in sort of kicking you in the right direction.
Yeah, I've had some great mentors and great inspirational moments over my path.
Yeah, it's, you sort of need that. I think no matter the profession, you need that. But I think especially if, like you said, people come to this later than you chose to. Obviously, you're still very young, but there is I would think that there's sort of a line of thinking that you need to know what you want to do. That you had to know you wanted to be a rabbi, like far earlier than you started. And then does the mindset switch to, oh my God, I'm so behind in the things I need to learn?
Honestly, I didn't feel that behind because
okay,
it turned out that, I was spending a lot more time on Jewish things than on math. I don't know, I started going to camp when I was 10, and I think I've learned more about being a Jewish person in community, a Jewish leader, a teacher, I don't know, a rabbi maybe, from going to camp and working at camp.
In talking with a rabbi in town here about sort of denominational Judaism and pros and cons, let's say, and I said I'm a camp Jew, conservative or I'm camp. Like that's sort of where similarly where I sort of felt like I was coming into myself more as a kid growing up in Michigan and going to Jewish camp there. That was where I started feeling my connection. Wasn't through, and I went to day school. It wasn't through the religious, side of it. It was through the cultural camp side and finding my connection to religion that way. So I think it feels more and more common for younger people to connect that way.
Yeah, I think there's something really special about that being away from away from social media, away from the disconnect of the average, the rest of the world, I guess, and then being in a place where you're isolated with a group of people where you have to rely on each other for a certain amount of time, that helps build those connections even deeper.
For sure, because I think being forced to unplug from all of the external and focusing on the present and on yourself some, while scary, is necessary.
Yeah. And the connections with the community, I think, is really key. You have to rely on people and rely on each other in a way. And to have that be in a Jewish context, to have that be in the context of our tradition with Jewish songs and Jewish celebrations and on a Jewish schedule, it helps people internalize it in a different way, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
So there's lots of types of rabbis. There is the camp rabbi, the educational rabbi, the song leading rabbi, then and the pulpit rabbi, and I'm sure I am missing some. I'm just very much off the top of my head. Sure. You have a lot of experience in a lot of those spaces, though. You make the decision that I'm going to go to rabbinic school. This is what I want to do. But because of your experiences, probably better than most people that there are lots of different paths that you can take once you go to HEC and then get ordained. How do you decide what that's going to be? And do you know yet what that ultimately is?
Yeah, well, I definitely don't know for sure, but I think I can say that I really love congregational work because in some ways it incorporates parts of each of those things.
Yeah.
Every day is a little bit different. I get to work with people in all different stages in life and be with people in their most significant moments sometimes, and then also just mundane moments, and it's just really beautiful. And I'm really passionate about connection, about helping people feel connected to something bigger than themselves, to each other, to community. And I think a congregation is a sort of unique place where people can come together intergenerationally, which is almost countercultural at this point. But people from all different stages in their lives can come together and experience something together in a connected way. And I think that's something that's really important. Whatever people think about religion is hard these days. Yeah, but I think in the context of our tradition, in the context of our deep learning and our texts and our connection and prayer, and also like social justice and learning. I said learning, but
Yeah.
it's big. It's a big one.
The learning's big in the, yes.
It's big, yeah,
it's
yeah.
big.
But like coming together as a community, sharing food, like all of these things that bring people together, I think it's such a strong place to do that. So I feel very passionate about congregational work, and I've always kind of been fascinated by different kinds of congregations and learning the structure of the community and figuring out how people all fit together.
Size-wise, how does Bet Shalom compare? I mean, I'm not going to compare it to where your student or your rabbinic intern, pulpits in LA, because LA is, I mean, just ginormous. That's totally different. But from a size perspective, is this about the type of size you were hoping to be at? Because obviously it's a range.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked at all kinds of different congregations, all different sizes and different places. I think, Bet Shalom, it seems like a really like kind of happy medium.
Yeah.
It's small enough that that we can be unique and we can be really intentional about the choices that we make about different things. And also big enough that we can bring people together in all sorts of different ways and sustain those different types of connection.
Now, it's not fair of me. I recognize. I am asking you these big questions about Bet Shalom, and you basically, like as you said before we started recording, you basically know how to find your office and not a ton else yet. I mean,
Yeah, the building is round, so it's great. So I never get lost.
That's true. You'll always end up in the same spot.
Right.
That's fine.
No,
but you really have just been to town. You moved to town a few weeks ago, so you're really still very much in the getting the lay of the land kind of situation here. Mm. So, like, I understand I'm asking you these questions that maybe isn't the most fair thing.
That's okay. I'm ready to jump in. I'm ready to.
No, that is clear. It's with your song leading, and I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about working with Cantor Javilio, who is, gorgeous voice. Also, I believe has some very musical in her how she approaches the cantorette. Because you have that kind of background, how important was that piece of the clergy team here?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say I'm really excited to work with Cantor Javilio. We actually knew each other before. Her last year at HUC was my year in Israel, so we got to work together.
That's awesome.
There, and she brings just such a knowledge of Jewish music and the ways that she can make it accessible to people, and like Jewish musical tradition. Like it's so much, like the depth of study that cantors do in music and liturgy is such an important thing and an important piece of our clergy team. And I'm really excited to work with her and learn from her and sing with her and make beautiful harmonies, hopefully.
Because you have that song leading background, which predates your decision to go to the clergy, had you given thought about being towards the cantorate? Again, not that I'm trying to
no, it's okay.
Rush you out of being a rabbi. I'm just sort of curious if that was if that came up in your thinking at all.
I did think about it. I really debated for a while and about whether I wanted music to be like the core of my leadership, or whether I wanted it to be something that informs my leadership, but not necessarily the main piece. Okay. And it was a debate. It was really, I had to think about it for a while, but I feel confident that I made the right choice now. And I know I also could have done both. I didn't have to choose. There was one summer at camp that kind of taught me not to do that, because I had two jobs at once, where I was a head song leader, a co-head song leader with someone else, and an assistant unit head at the same time. And
that's too much.
It was almost like being a rabbi and a cantor. And I thought, I want to pick which job I have.
Yeah.
So that helped me decide to pursue just one.
Okay.
And music will always be part of my Judaism and my connection and my leadership. But I don't think it was my main piece.
Okay.
It did definitely bring me in. When I was in high school, I started playing guitar at services, and I was there every week. And I started for the guitar practice, basically, that my teacher was also a musician in the congregation.
Oh,
and he
okay.
brought me in, and so we sat next to each other and played guitar at services. And at first I was playing guitar at services, and then I got into like praying and really like connected to it because I was there every week, and
Right.
that was my tradition. So it became such an important part of my week. And so the music brought me in, but then something else grabbed me. Like I started to find meaning in it in a deeper way, and I never looked back. I kept going, and here I am.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always find fascinating about the rabbinic contract cycle, which is July 1st through June 30th, for those who don't know, is that you're coming, and this is true for every rabbi that's moving congregations or joining their first congregation, you're moving cross country. Mm-hmm. You're starting this new job. You're fresh out of school and being ordained, and you're joining a congregation that is in the midst of high holiday prep already, and probably has been for a little while. How do you bring yourself to that, to those conversations and that planning, and sort of fill the role that the congregation needs you to fill, but also while being true to yourself, in a sense where planning has gone on where they don't know you yet?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting time to jump in, and it won't be my first time jumping into a community at the high holidays, because that's just sort of, even with the school year, that's sort of the beginning of the school year and how it starts. So a lot
Fair.
of my internships were like that too. Yeah, I don't know, if you look at the Jewish calendar, like maybe you could find a better time within the holidays to fit it, but in the life of a congregation, the summer is a nice time to come in when there's less things going on, at least, like less religious school. So
Yeah.
there's a time for me to get my bearings before I'm as busy as I will be in a couple months.
Right.
So there's that, but I think also I really like patterns, and I love the flow of the Jewish calendar. And the high holidays are really a beginning. The high holidays, it's a new year. It's an end and a beginning, and kind of a clean slate, fresh start, all those themes that I'm sure we'll be talking about in the next few months.
I'm sure.
And I feel like this year, especially for me, I think I'll think of it in a meaningful way of being a beginning for me, a first way to introduce myself to the community, or the wider community that hasn't come to services in the last
Right, in the few months leading up.
months leading up, right. But like, I know that I'll be interacting with a lot more of the community than I had yet. So it'll be a good start for me.
That's great. I mean, it's Judaism is a little weird in that, like, there's a predictability.
Sure.
Like, things happen, like Rosh Hashanah and then Yom Kippur, right? They happen, but they happen at slightly different times. So, like,
Right.
it always feels like it I mean, at least me, I'm not in the rabbinate or the clergy. It feels like it sneaks up on me all the time. And yet it's sort of...
We have a bonus month this year, so it's a
That's
little
true.
bit later. Yeah,
That's true.
Which is kind of nice.
Right.
Yeah, or I guess last year.
Except we'll be celebrating the last night of Hanukkah and New Year's at the same time.
Well,
which is...
you can't have them all.
No, that's true. Right,
all
which
in
is a
balance.
whole different thing. Right,
Sure.
but it's there is a predictability to the cycle of Judaism in a way that is comforting in a way. Mm-hmm. So you've worked at other synagogues and other pulpits as an intern or a rabbinic intern, and the sort of the getting to know you piece of it. You're this, and I would think in a community like LA where HUC has a campus, those congregations maybe get a little more used to the cycle
Sure.
of students coming through. Now that you're not a student, this is your full-time pulpit now. Mm-hmm. What are some of the sort of get to know you kind of, I don't say activities, but like ways people can like meet you and connect with you and just get get to know a sense of who Rabbi Samantha Thal is.
Sure. Yeah, I think I'm moving to the city. I've never lived here before, these cities. Still getting used to that.
Yeah, there's two of them.
Yeah, two of them, yep. So we've been talking about how people can sort of show me around, show me their favorite places, and I get to know the city and the community at the same time. So I think that's the plan for at least getting to know some of the community that I'm going to get to meet one-on-one. But I don't know, Bet Shalom has been such a warm, welcoming community to me. I feel like everyone's so excited for me to be here, and I'm so excited to be here too, and we're excited to come together. So I'm looking forward to getting to know as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, and that's going to really take time.
Sure. Absolutely.
But I feel like I'm set up for success here. I feel like everyone is doing everything they can to help this be a smooth transition for me.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it's important, not just for you, it's important to the community here as well, that the transition is smooth.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody wants it to be an easy landing for you and help you get settled in and used to the sort of rhythms of what goes on here.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Oh, excellent. Last couple questions, and we will let you get back to your learning where things are around the building.
Thanks.
First, what is your favorite Jewish holiday?
Mm-hmm. So we were talking about the Jewish calendar.
Yes.
Love them all, of course.
Of course.
I think I'm going to pick Shavuot this time because it's like, I like an underdog. It's not one of the ones.
It's very much an underdog.
I mean, if you read the Torah, it's not really an underdog. It's like one of the three big ones. But the way the calendar works and the way the religious school year works, and like we don't really teach about it so much because the kids aren't around. So, yeah, but I love Shavuot because you get to stay up all night studying and eat cheesecake, and it's just like I don't know what's better. Well,
listen, when it's boiled down to its essence, right?
But then also like those midnight conversations, those 1, 2 in the morning, like when you've been studying for a while, and those people that stay, it's always this group of people that wants to be there, and you have the best conversations at that point. Like you can talk about all kinds of deep things like God and things you don't talk about usually in any other setting. So I think that's something I've found, that if you get to those late hours of the night when you're sort of less conscious, both like less awake but also less self-conscious, and you can get to the deeper questions and conversations that kind of gives me energy for the rest of the year, even to get back to that.
I mean, look, as long as it powers you through the rest of that night, it's probably a good start.
You got to really plan for that.
You got to, that's true. You got to really psych up for that. That's a lot. And last question, what is your favorite Jewish food?
Chicken soup.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyone's in particular?
I mean, I think like there are people in my family that make really good chicken soup, so I think I have to shout out my mom's chicken soup, and like she makes the best matzo balls, of course, as everyone's mom does, I'm sure.
Obviously. Yes.
Yeah. But I like chicken soup in many varieties, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Matzo ball, floater or sinker?
Kind of. I like either one. My mom's float.
Okay. You don't discriminate.
Light and fluffy, but I like them both ways. Yeah. Do you have any recommendations for chicken soup in the Twin Cities?
No.
Okay.
Only because I'm not going to explain.
That's a political statement.
It's a political statement.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
I do 90% of the cooking, at least in my house, and so I make an okay chicken. I mean, it's not. It's one of those things that just. It's not one. Chicken soup to me feels like it's one of those things that you can't just like make and be good at. Like you have to. It requires tweaking and refining and playing with levels of ingredients and all of those things, and it's. I'm not there yet.
There's got to be like a certain there's a balance, but then there's also the tradition and the love and some element of like, not being so particular, I think is a big secret in Jewish cooking. Yeah. Like the forgetting about it piece that that makes some of our food so good.
Yeah, there's just a level of flavor I can't quite
Yeah.
extract yet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get there though.
It's good to have things that we're always searching for.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. It's life goals there. Rabbi Samantha Thal, thank you so much for joining me. An honor to get to talk to you in your first few days here in Bet Shalom, and a warm welcome to the Twin Cities Jewish community from all of us.
Thanks so much.
The Who the Folk podcast is a part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network and a product of Jew Folk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.